Welcome to a Wednesday Live. I'm so excited for today's session. I have Prisca Benson who will be joining me. We're going to be talking about, is your money plan working for you, and how to build a money plan that can hold up in any economy. Because you know how things are going these days. Money may be tight, groceries, gas, all those things. So I'm going to bring her up on stage and have her introduce herself, and we're going to get started with this conversation. Hey, Prisca, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm glad to be here.
All right. So I want you to introduce yourself to the folks here. Who
Yes.
are you? What do you do?
So I'm a money coach and I run Our Green Life. As Tashieka said, my name is Prisca. And basically my goal is to help people manage their money in a way that feels good for them, both in present and that also establishes a secure future for themselves. So essentially we're creating a plan that allows them to save more consistently, pay down debt faster, spend guilt-free, and invest more intentionally. And so I do this by way of helping them make a plan for their paycheck so they know exactly what to do with every paycheck so that they are making progress towards their goal instead of like doing things and feel like they're just striking the air because nothing's really working and they feel like they're taking 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's like, no, let's keep making progress, keep making progress.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk all about that today. Like all the things you just hit on is definitely what we're going to talk about. So for those who are new to me, my name is Tashieka Ma'at. I'm the founder of JamaaWealth Financial. And my goal really is to help you keep more cash in your pocket so you can position it to wealth and just create a life of freedom and ease. So yeah, clock it. So we are going to jump right on in. I would love to start out. I do want us to share our story just so people can kind of see, like, we're not new to this, we're true to this. Like, this is the journey that, and I love your story and where you've gotten to today, especially with your investing journey. So I'd love for you to just start off just kind of sharing, like, what even got you into being a money coach, and how does that tie into your personal finances?
Yes, I'm definitely an accidental entrepreneur and still questionable entrepreneur because I am very much like, that was not my plan whatsoever. But what happened was, I graduated nursing school in 2011. I didn't have a lot of money. I'm first gen Haitian American. So there were some loans taken with school and then I had some credit card debt. And I was like, to me, nursing was the way to freedom. Like, that's it. I'm going to be rich. Right. And then so I imagined all the things I was going to get. Right. Plus, when I was a kid, because, money was strapped, like I always heard like, oh, no, you can't have this. No, you can't have that. And I was like, oh, I can't wait till I make my own money so I can buy everything I want. And that's precisely what I did. OK, when I graduated from nursing school, I got 2 cars in the first year of nursing school. I paid down my credit card just enough so I could run it back up again. I would go shopping, shoes galore, nail polish galore, like all the things. Okay. I was doing all the things and still didn't think anything of it. I wasn't that pressed for money, right? Like I had more than enough. I'm used to having less, I was making more than both my parents' incomes combined when I got my first job. So it's like, you can't tell me nothing. Okay. And then I got married in 2013 and my husband, like, he didn't have debt. So I was like, oh, this guy's like saving money. And like my checks went to the bills and then, Discover and MasterCard and Visa. I was like, oh, snap, this is a different way of living. So then I started to be a little bit more intentional when it comes to money, actually a lot more intentional, where we were saving up for vacations instead of putting it on a credit card and figuring out after. Getting life insurance, like establishing ourselves, as kind of responsible adults, but still missing the link of investing, which we weren't really aware of. Like we were kind of doing it, but very haphazardly. Now, no strategy, no goal, no vision for the future. And then in 2018, for whatever reason, I just like a thing came to me like, hey, nursing is associated with being rich, but your bank account don't look like that. It doesn't look like you've been a nurse for 7 years. So I started listening to personal finance podcasts like Her Money, which led me to choose FI. And that was it. Like learning things like savings rate. I never heard these things before. Maxing out your retirement. This just concepts that I was never taught to me, not really exposed to my community. And I was like, I got to do more like this. And so I started to make changes, like to be even more intentional when it comes to my finances, but especially investing. So for the first 7 years of my career, I altogether had about 40K in investments, but then from the next 8 years, now I'm at over 540K. And I didn't do anything super drastic besides create a plan, stick to the plan, create the plan, stick to the plan, create the plan, stick to the plan. So I just like to show people that it's not as complicated as it might feel. Wealth building is not ridiculously out of reach, no matter what they say out there in the news. I'm not saying it's not hard for people, just to be clear, but where people feel like, oh, nobody can do it. People can do it. Okay. You just have to figure out how it works for you. And so that's my goal, is to make that easier for people.
I love that. And as you're talking your story, it's funny because 2018 was about this time when I also started on my journey. But I love what you said, though, like creating the plan for you, because I was drinking the Kool-Aid of, the Dave Ramsey for a good couple of years. And I remember because I worked, my income, I feel like, grew drastically. Probably when I started working in corporate, like 2009, I was making maybe like $30,000 a year. Went to making $50,000 a year, then started making $100,000 or like over $100,000 a year within like 5 years. So having my income grow drastically, but the problem was my income was increasing, but somehow I still felt like it ain't enough. Like, where's the money going?
Where's it going?
Yeah, exactly. And so, and it's interesting, the debt that we accumulate. Like, it's interesting because back then I would say I was a shopaholic. Now I know the truth. It's my brain. I found out I had ADHD back in April of this year. Okay. And as I kind of researched all the things, I went like a whole rabbit hole of just like looking at, ADHD and money, and all the things what I thought was just like me being a shopaholic is actually attributed to me having ADHD, which was like eye-opening and interesting. And like the plan that I created and everything that I did to get out of debt and start investing was like proven strategies of what would work for someone with ADHD. So I was like, oh, I created the thing before I even knew the thing. Yeah. But yeah, I was drinking like the Dave Ramsey Kool-Aid for a long time. And I remember like 2018, at that point where I was making my first 6 figures, and I'm like, okay, something has to give because I'm making all this money, more than I've ever made, and yet I still can't seem to like get ahead. I'm always having debt. Like, what's going on? A lot of the debt did come from us like getting our first home, and then like fixing it up because we got like a fixer-upper, what we was doing. But a lot of that debt came from that, and then also what I call my shopaholic tendencies of just like, I got money, so I can spend it, and I can afford the credit card payment, so let me put it on the credit card. And so with a lot of that, I remember sitting down. It was like later in the night. I would always budget, but I would always budget late at night, and I would be so obsessed, like going over my numbers over and over again, like trying to figure out like how can I make this thing work and change. But I remember sitting down and adding up all of our debt, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like we had very little assets, which was just like our home, barely any investments, credit card debt. And I was just like, all right, that's when I got on like the Dave Ramsey track and was like trying to, and I think I'd been on it before then, but the problem with that is like I would pay off the debt, but then I would get back into that, and it just seemed like this never-ending cycle. And I'm like, there has to be a different way of me doing this. And I remember just like researching, like, okay, what does it take to actually like be a millionaire? That was like my goalpost. And I was like, what does it take? So I started researching and reading. I think the first book that I read was, I think it's like Stanley's last name, The Millionaire Next Door.
Oh, yes.
So that book, I read that, and that like literally opened my eyes. Like, wait a minute. So what people show is what millionaires are, like having the fancy cars and the house and all those things. Like that's not what it is. Like you got janitors who are millionaires and they're just working everyday jobs, driving regular cars. And so like that shifted my mindset so much. So I was like, okay, let me like knock off this debt. But for me, I think what shifted it for me was focusing on the goal of like, I want to be a millionaire. And then working backwards, like what are the steps and the habits and behaviors that I needed to implement to get towards that goal, right?
Yeah.
And I think I kind of like, I'm in this awakening phase of learning a lot about myself and ADHD. So I may refer to it a lot, but what it was for me is that I had to have a vision so big that I can focus on that as like the end goal, that it would shift my habits and behaviors to actually work towards that. So within that span of 5 years, from 2018 to 2023, I had paid off $115,000 worth of debt and simultaneously built a 6-figure investment portfolio.
Love that.
And I love to say this because I was talking to my husband the other day, and if I had followed the Dave Ramsey plan and paid off, we could have had all of our debt paid off. We could have been debt free. So I'm not debt free. I still have student loans. We still have a mortgage. And so had I paid off all of that debt, I laid off in 2023. And so in hindsight, I'm thinking I made the best decision of investing first before investing first, but investing and paying off debt, because had I did it
Yeah.
the opposite, had I did it the Dave Ramsey way, I would have been debt free, but had no assets. So essentially starting from zero. So I always say that, like, my philosophy very much is you can invest while paying off debt. There's a way to do it. There's a way that I've done with my clients that allows you to do both. Because I know it can get overwhelming trying to do both at once. And it doesn't have to be like this whole thing where you're trying to tackle two things at once. Like, there's a system that you can create. But I would love to know for you, because we jump into the first topic here, like, what was it for you that that shifted the needle from like a mindset perspective? How did you shift your habits and behaviors to start, moving towards, all right, it's time to start building wealth?
Yeah, so there's a couple things I like to address. One is people's personalities can make them lean one way or the other, right? So I'm a very take action oriented person. So the first time I invested, I was in college, and then I refer to her as the auntie. I can't remember her name at all, but she was my manager when I was working at Walgreens, and she goes, "Young lady," she's looking at me, black ladies, you need to start investing. And that was that. I went home, opened a share builder account, and I not knowing what I'm doing at all. Okay. But I opened the account and did it. And so that made it so much easier for when other mindset shifts clicked. Ooh, okay. That it was easy to make certain adjustments. So for example, what the first thing clicked was when seeing my husband being able to use his checks, right? So it's like, okay, spending willy-nilly, that's not giving me what I'm looking for here. I didn't necessarily have a goal at that time, but I'm like, oh, it felt lighter for him to have the money versus me, I had to work. There was no choice.
Yeah.
There's no freedom when you're spending all your dollars. And then again, once I came to the realization that, hey, my net worth does not look like what I would expect a nurse to look like. Especially I'm in the Northeast. We make good money. So it's like, if you were to look at my net worth statement, which I wasn't calculating my net worth at the time, but just looking at my bank accounts in general, I'm like, that's not it. So when I was listening to these podcasts and they're teaching me these concepts, I'm like, how do I implement? That's my thing. Yeah. I'm not sitting there trying to figure out, oh, it works for them and don't work for me because they were white dudes, right? I'm not sitting there trying to figure that out. I'm like, how can I do this to the best of my ability?
Right, exactly.
And I'm going to have the constraints I have being first-gen American, being a woman, being a woman of color. No, but even if I don't make to whatever goals and numbers that they had, I'm like, I'm gonna get as close as possible. And so when they talked about maxing out your retirement, at the time I was contributing 6% to my retirement. I was like, okay, let me do the math. And it said for me to max it out for that year, whatever year that was, I think it was 2018, 2019. It was you gotta do 22%. I was like, woo, okay, let me do it once. Let me see what happens. So I did it once. I was like, huh? I thought I was gonna have chest pains, anxiety, all that. Okay. I was like, okay, let's do it one more time. What's it gonna hurt? Okay, you can always
exactly.
Right. And then I never turned it down again. I've been maxing out my retirement ever since. So for me, there is a personality trait in there that helped when these mindset shifts came, that I was able to act upon it. Some people are not like that. You have to work with how your mind works. What things do you need to tackle? What things do you need to challenge in order for you to make the change? If your response to people's success that you want in your life is I can't, or I don't have the ability, they have these, they have that, that's never going to get you anywhere, ever. How about you?
It reminds me, I want to share a story from one of my clients, because exactly what you said about seeing, I think there's so many beliefs that we have that we don't even realize where they come from, our childhood or come from, different things. But one of my clients, Katie, who when we first met, one of the things she said was I can't save and pay off debt at the same time. And of course, knowing my story, I was like, girl, no, we're gonna work this out. But it was just a matter of just showing her the possibility. Because I think sometimes when we don't see someone, and I think it's important, representation is important, which is why I know we do what we do. But a lot of times when we're not able to see beyond our current circumstances, it's almost like, oh my gosh, like there's absolutely no way. But once I actually showed her and broke out, okay, well, here's your income. And she was making like 6 figures as well. So the fact that she was making 6 figures, she didn't have that much debt. I want to say maybe it was like 20,000, I think, of debt that she had at the time. The plan that we created is like how you can actually build up her savings. And I always like to put savings into a bucket of like, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but the way that I do it is like breaking it up in a way where you're able to still save money, but the priority is getting rid of the debt, right?
Yes.
But
Yep.
she wasn't able to get to that point until we unlocked her mindset and showing her like, all right, yes, you're believing this, but there is a possible way. And I think for me, the shift for me was like, one, unlocking, okay, this is how, most people actually manage their money. They actually save, they invest, and they keep their debt low, right? And it's not that they don't have debt. If they have debt, it's either strategic, like the debt that they're using is debt that is going to have return on investment. And that's something that for me was like a mindset shift too, of like, because once I went down the Dave Ramsey rabbit hole, I was like, I can't have debt. We can't do anything with debt. And then it was like, as I started my business too, like that shifted. It's like, okay, how is this investment going to help bring a return on,
Yes.
what I'm investing in from that perspective, rather than, oh, I'm just going to spend money on clothes and all these things. And like, my philosophy around debt now is like, yes, you can spend on debt, or use debt, but I like to use credit cards like as a debit card. So if I'm spending something on there, I'm going to pay it off when I have when the balance posts, right? That prevents the ability to like rack up the debt, right? And I know there's other incidents, like I know when people have homes and they get, like money to pay off the bathroom or something, or fix something, like, yeah, those things will happen. But the most important thing is having a plan. And that's a part of the mindset shift of like, that is not inherently bad. But the point is, how are you using that? Like, how are you positioning yourself in a way where you're able to move forward and build wealth and not be strapped by the debt? And I think that's the shift that people need to go through, because that's something that I had to go through. That was the shift that I had to make was, all right, like, yes, I have the debt, but how can I get rid of this and still build? And what are the habits and behaviors that I needed to employ to actually start building? And for me, that was because my husband was definitely like, he was not all about the throwing every single dollar at debt. So that was like something that we had to like work through, and I told him the other day, I'm like, I'm glad you had that philosophy, because it forced me to figure out a way of like, how can we manage both? How can we do it in a way where we're building at the same time and paying off debt? So yeah, I think the mindset shift for me really just kicked in from understanding like, what are the habits and behaviors and what are the things that I was doing that was keeping me stuck in where I am today,
It's something I just wanted to add to when you're talking about the debt thing, and the mindset towards it. Like, I think that debt is in itself, of course, has no power, right? It's like, it's you who has a certain mindset when it comes to what it is. But doing it with intention is always going to be markedly different than when you are racking up debt because, like, I just felt like doing this real quick. And then now I'm like, I pay. Like, now I'm racking up stuff on my credit card, or I don't feel good. I deserve this thing. And then you just go willy-nilly versus, I'm putting my vacation on this because, there's protections with using a credit card, or I'm going to school. I'm going to take on loans because it's going to equal a certain income at the end. Like, all that stuff is where intention lies, and the intention is going to make the biggest difference, like, regardless of what you're taking a loan out for, or taking on credit for, as long as you're doing it with purpose and you have a plan in regards to it, right? So these are the things that's going to make the biggest adjustments. And then I just wanted to talk about one more thing, money mindset wise, that can happen to people, is like, there's certain money stories, like, oh, money's evil. People who are rich are evil. Like, money it's inanimate. Okay. It has no characteristics. It has no personality. So it itself cannot make you be a bad person.
Right.
You get to decide who you want to be and how you want to use money to amplify the person you want to be. And so I find, like, I've had certain clients who like, hey, I don't want to build wealth because, that could change me. How?
Yeah.
If I handed you $5 more,
exactly. Or what's the other one that I've heard too? It's a real, I don't want to make light of it, but it's a real thing of like a mindset, because I've even heard people say that they don't want to make more money because they have to pay more taxes. Like that's something real that people, and it's like you're stunting your growth and your ability to build wealth because of this thought that, oh, either money's evil or, and it's not money's evil, it's the love of money.
Yes.
I always like to take that again, like it's the love of money. But I digress. But I think it's important because you're right. There are so many different things that people think about in regards to money that prevents them from, moving forward or building wealth or, not having debt. Or maybe they believe that, debt is free. I've heard people, debt is free money. I at one point was like, oh, I got my first credit card in what was it, high school? I got my first credit card. In college was actually the first time I got into debt because I was like, oh, I need a new computer. Swipe the credit card. Did I have a job?
That's
no, I did not. And then that was like my introduction to debt. So I think just having a concept of like, it's not free money. It's money you're going to have to pay back, right? Sure. It's so easy to just swipe, right? Especially when you're not being intentional with that process. But I wanted to just touch on a point, because I know for you, like as a nurse and like building money, and I know you said for the first part of your journey was kind of like the learning phase. The second part was when you're kind of got into like investing. Can you talk about either with you or with a client? Because I'm curious to know, like for the women who they're making a lot of money, like how do you create that shift in, the part of like, I just need to make more money and then I'm gonna be safe.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think we have enough examples through media of people who have had a lot of money and went bankrupt, right? So I tend to lean towards those examples as to obvious, like you cannot do it without a plan. It doesn't matter how much money you have, whether you have tiny bits or a lot of bits, okay? And so the people with the tiny bits, they tend to be more on it because they have less, right? So they have to make everything count. So it makes it like where people feel like budgets are just for those kind of people. It's like, nah, hey, like if you want to accomplish any goal with any bit of consistency, this is where a plan for your money comes in. Whether you want to call it a budget, paycheck plan, conscious spending plan, whatever you call it, you do want some kind of structure when it comes to your finances. Because the fact of the matter is, how you feel today about, like I could work an extra shift. I'm like, what if tomorrow you don't feel like it? Then what? Can you afford your life? Can you afford for kids to go to camp? These are all the things that like people make like decisions based off of where they are now, not thinking about what tomorrow might look like. The nurse of me, like when I look at like what I did as a nurse very young, like I would, wake up in the morning, go to the gym before my shift. I'm like, now I'm like, I don't even want to be nowhere before 7:00. Like, you might have chronic pain issues. You don't know when these things are going to come. And you don't want to be stressed out when it comes, because there's nothing worse. And that's the thing. Yeah. Like for me, I'm like, you want to give yourself the option. Yes, I can work more, but do I have to? Does my life stop or get incredibly overwhelming if I stop? And so that's what I like to reinforce for people. Like by creating a plan for your money, you're not restricting yourself. You're creating options. You're building freedom. Okay. And then so like, and two, like when you're talking about just making more, things happen all the time that changes things. I saw this weird, but I'm like, I couldn't believe I saw this. Like, it seems like in North Carolina, there's like some kind of bidding system for shifts at a hospital now, where it's basically like the person who bids the lowest for their dollars, nursing shifts, is going to might like get put on the schedule. And I'm like, you don't know where life is going to take you, honey. Okay. Yeah. I've never thought I'd see something like that. And hopefully it's not something that becomes, the norm by any means. But I'm just saying your place where you work, where you feel like, oh, I could do it, just take a couple extra shifts. You never know what's going to happen there. People lose their licenses, weird ways nowadays. Like there's a lot of things that was like, because now is decent and it seems like you could print money basically by working. That could stop tomorrow. And then what?
Let's just say that, because that was my thing too. I think for me, it was interesting. The more money that I made, I feel like it was the more stress, because it was like, okay, what if this all goes away? Like, what if, and so that I think a lot of people, like, yes, like I want to make more money, but I know with a lot of people, a lot of clients that I've worked with too, it's like this, the fear beneath everything that's going on is this worry of like, okay, well, what happens if my income goes away? Right. And
Yep.
so that's why I want to jump into this next topic, because this is what's going to help you. If you have that fear and that thought, right, of like, how do you prepare yourself so that you don't have those gut check moments of like, what happened? So for you, I love share for you like your journey about, because you kind of already touched on it, but like when it comes to savings, how do you actually create a savings plan that sticks and that is going to help and support your life?
Yes. So the first thing for me was the whole concept of paying yourself first, which people are like, oh yeah, I hear that all the time. Okay, I get it. But how do you actually implement it? So for me, what was happening, I mean, when you put money towards your retirement, that is paying yourself first, right? Before it even hits your checking account, that money's already put aside for that purpose, right? Versus then afterwards, it's now like savings, right? What do I do with that? How do I handle that? I now have it built in like a bill. It says number, okay? I get my paycheck. This number is going towards that account every time. When I was doing it the other way before, where I would spend and then like save what's left, the amount that went to savings varied so much month to month.
Yep.
It could be like one check, you do 100, next check, you do 300, 400. And so it's hard to build consistent savings that way. It doesn't feel as good, because when you do need to use that money, because that's what some of your money is going to be set aside to spend.
Yeah.
Right? If you put that there, then it's like, okay, you spend it and it's like, oh man, I don't know when I'm going to get to this much. Versus now that I have a sinking fund for my vacations, right? When I spend it, I'm like, oh, okay, I put $225 every paycheck. That's what, $450 a month, right? $225. Yep. So if that's the case, I know exactly when I'm gonna have $1,000 in there. I know exactly when I'm gonna have $2,000 in there. Like, there's no question about it. So by doing this, where, okay, I'm gonna put a set amount, but you got to pick your amount that's gonna be consistent. Okay, that could vary. Right now, I'm telling you, for vacation, it's $225. It wasn't always like that. That's just what I could do now. But like, pick the number and then make it consistent. Some people, they're like aspirational savers. Like, I'm gonna save this number or this percentage, just to say like they're fitting some 50, 30, 20 or some kind of thing like that. Like, don't do that. Look at your exact money plan. How much can I put aside every single paycheck to save? And then make that true. And then on top of that, when you get extra money, or maybe your bills are less for one paycheck versus the other, you can add to it if you want to, but you'll never be without that minimum. So that's how I
love that. And you know what? That's something that I did. Was I started off first with a number, like I was doing $25 per paycheck, but then as I was making more, I started shifting it to percentage, so that, because remember that year I was like, my income was increasing, and so I think I started with like 10%. And then as I got, like, I think once I hit the 6-figure mark, what I started doing, which I feel like is like one of the best things that I've done, was I have 2 separate savings accounts. One savings is what I call my freedom saving. This is like the do not touch, break in case of emergency, you done got laid off from your job type of savings. and that's how I teach my clients too. Like, this is your savings. You're automatically putting money in there every single time you get paid. It is do not touch, right? Unless it's a major medical emergency or you got laid off from your job. And then the other buckets that I have for travel fund too. I have my sinking fund, which is just for like the things that I know are coming or may not come, like maybe a house repair or car repair or something. I'm putting money aside into that savings account. So it's money that I'm going to spend. I don't know when I'm going to spend it, but I'm going to spend it. And how I typically decide that amount is I will use the previous year's expenses. So how much did we spend on car repairs? How much did we spend on the house? How much did we spend on, I don't know, kids' dentists, because they're expensive going to the dentist. And then I would take that amount and then divide it by 12. So some years, I mean, it's definitely like a guardrail. So throughout the year, like if I know something's coming up, I'll increase the savings for that. But it's so far been working out well. I'll just use last year's numbers. How much did we spend? Do we anticipate any, appointments or things coming up? And then we will just set aside that amount into that fund to use. And then if there's money left over, we can keep it in there, roll it over, or we can use it for other funds. But then again, the other one is the travel fund. So typically for my family, we set aside like what our average amount that we like to spend per year on vacations. And then sometimes it may be more, maybe less, depending on if we're going out of the country or if we're staying in state. And then we just take that amount divided by 12, and then we're just putting money in there every single month. And the reason why I did it like that, because I always start kind of what you said, pay yourself first. I always start off my budget with the top of my budget line item has freedom fund savings, sinking fund savings, travel, and then investing. I know we're going to talk about investing later, but investing, and I will allocate what I want to put to those buckets first. And then the rest of the money goes on to my bills. And I believe since I started doing that method, it's been peace, because it's less about, well, what am I going to save after everything, after I spend everything? Because you're right. Like, most people will try to save what's left, but they usually never spend anything because they have their fixed expenses that gets paid off. And then those variable expenses where we have the most control is what I like to say. Those variable expenses is where you are in control. You have the most control. And I know for me, that was an area where we had significant amount of variable like money that we can use, but it got spent in different ways because we didn't have a plan for it. So once we started creating that method of like our savings bucket and our investments and then paying the bills, that's when it was like, okay, we actually have money to save and invest. Like, we can do this. So I always encourage people, the first step before anything is understanding, like, one, what are for your freedom fund is what I like to call it. You can call it emergency fund, whatever you want to call it. I like to call it something aspirational, like what I'm working towards. So, when you look at that, I know the common things like 3 to 6 months of savings in that account. Again, everybody's finances is different. Do what works for you. You might have a 2-parent household. You might be a single person, which you might need more because you're only relying on yourself. But you decide how much you're putting into savings or what your goal is. And it doesn't have to happen overnight. Like, I always like to say, like, if it's good, say $30,000 is your goal. Like, if you want to do it in a year, do it in a year. But if you want to stretch it out over 5 years, then now okay, I have $30,000. I'm going to divide it by 5 years, figure out what I'm going to put in monthly, and then that's how you're building that particular plan. So is that kind of how you do, like, with your savings fund of like,
so
it down backwards?
One thing I want to, before I get into that, is just when you do it the other way, the biggest thing I saw when it comes to paying yourself first was that my spending decreased because I had less to spend. So the amount of money I spent on groceries, I'm like, yo, we gotta chill, okay? Because I, like, mind you, it's a 2-person household here. I was spending hundreds of dollars, like, beyond what we needed. And I'm like, now that I have less to spend, then I'm going to spend less. It's just no option for me. I wasn't taking on debt to buy groceries, So for that reason, I say, like, the pay itself first has benefits on benefits on benefits. And yes, in terms of like paying down, like setting up sinking funds. Like, so if I have a particular goal, so like my vacation account, money gets put there every time. I don't care. The same number every time. And if I have any extra money, it's going to be put on that because I just love to travel. But then on the flip side, when it comes to things like my car insurance, I pay by 6 months. That's another thing. Having money, right, and having a system for your finances puts you in a position to save so much money, because if you buy your insurance, like car insurance, and you pay monthly, the bill is drastically smaller when you pay 6 months or 12 months at a time. So once I pay that 6 months, I'm like, okay, every month, how much would this have cost me? And that goes into an account. So that way, it's covered every single time. There's no question when that bill comes, I'm not gonna be freaking out about where it's at. No. And there's a baseline that stays in that account that pays for that. But that account also pays for car maintenance, like what you're talking about. Like, and I have a separate fund for paying the mortgage, paying all the house related stuff, maintenance, anything, cleaning, all that stuff. There's a separate fund for that. We're just putting money consistently every single paycheck.
I love that. So here's the other question too, because I know several clients have had this situation pop up. How do you put boundaries into place? So you saving all this money, you got this big 5 figures just sitting over there chilling. How do you put boundaries? Like, how do you keep yourself from looking at that, being like, ooh, I got a lot of money, and then just dipping in there? Because that's what it's a real thing. I used to do that in the past. I would dip into those savings and
So for me, I feel like the biggest thing that made a difference is having a goal for that money, right? So having money in a savings account means nothing. Okay.
Yeah.
But having a goal for like that counts for vacations. I'm not doing nothing with it besides touching for vacations. That's
Mhm.
it. So what happens is like we do certain things like because we know we're supposed to do. Oh, I'm supposed to save money. But if you don't have a goal and purpose for it, then what's to stop? There's nothing to stop you from just using it. Like it's my money. Like of course I can use it. Now,
Yeah.
if you set the fact that you want this for trips because you have a trip coming up, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
this is gonna cost me $3,000. I divided it amongst this many months, and I want to have that money by then why would you touch it? Besides if something with all hell is breaking loose. You know what I'm saying? Like it's you that puts that there for that purpose. Like I do not want to send a plan that I set up awry.
Yeah.
So and then so there's other things that I like to put money aside for too, like I said, for the house or for upcoming expenses. Like if you give the money a purpose or a goal, it's so much easier not to step in it. It's just when it's just your money and that's a label, my money, then you can do whatever you
Yeah.
want with it. And I've seen that
Well,
play out for
yeah.
our clients as well. Like it's just so much easier for them to decide like, oh, can I spend money on this thing? I'm setting some money aside for gifts. If you put money aside for gifts so you can give to other people, you think it's gonna dip in it? Like how's that gonna make you feel? You set up those goals because of what mattered to you, and therefore it makes it that much easier.
Point, like literally, because I will say something like, if I dip into this fund, I'm taking away from my freedom. If I dip into this fund, I'm taking away from my trip to Barcelona. If I dip into this fund, I'm dipping into my car maintenance. And so like I've had to start saying that to myself to realize, and I love it because in Ally Bank, when they have the buckets, and then usually when you're taking out, they're like, well, which bucket are you taking from? I love like going in like, oh, I'm taking this from this particular bucket for this thing, because shifting that mindset to, all right, I'm taking away from my freedom, then you start thinking twice about, do I want to take away from my freedom? No, let me keep that money in there.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because the client Katie that I had, that was one of the things for her, and we broke up her system kind of similarly, where she had that the freedom fund savings was like, you don't touch that money, that's there, and then she had the sinking fund. And I remember something happened with her car, and she like texted me, she's like freaking out, like, oh my gosh, my car, and I'm like, okay, look, number one, calm down, because I'm like, I know when you go through this process, it's like when you're in a state where you usually put things on the credit card, we had a pause. I'm like, okay, girl, how much is in your non-monthly account?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh yeah. Here. And she's like, oh my God, thank you so much. Because had I not had that, I would have used credit card. That was her first go-to, was like, oh, something with the card, boom, let me start the credit card. Where now she had this sinking fund, I'd call it non-monthly spending, but this non-monthly account where she was able to dip into that and then use that to pay for a car. But you're right, it's like just shifting to the point of like, what are you taking from if you're not if you're not putting a goal towards that.
Yep. And I like what you said there about like, the mindset shift that comes with that, because like you said, like there was another client, she had like her tax bill was there was something awry where they didn't file at a timely manner. The accountant told her, oh, you have this tax bill. Very annoying. So she's texting me, she's pissed, she's like, oh, I can't believe this happened, that he messed up and all this stuff. I'm like, okay, like we're already putting money aside for taxes for the upcoming year. I was like, how much money is in that account? She had like 2/3 of it. We had just started working together. She already had like 2/3 of the amount for the bill there. I'm like, okay, so now you just take that, and then we have to figure out where the rest is coming from. But it's so much less anxiety raising. It's like, okay, yes, that sucks. And what do we do about it? That's a big thing when it comes to money. People will focus on the that sucks part. And my job is to get them to the other side. Like what you've worked on so far has made it so that sucks is so much better than it would have been before.
Exactly. I like to call it the term I used to use is like it's like it's an annoyance. Like it's annoying.
Yes, it's a nuisance. Yep.
Yes, exactly. It's like, I got the money. It's just annoying. Yes, I saved for it, but it's kind of, rather than, oh my gosh, I don't got the money. It's like, it's just
you don't have on fire. Yep.
Because it's a real thing, like, especially when, because the fact that she would always grab her credit card is because a lot of times people in this, and I know I used to go through this, like you're in this panic state of like, oh crap, this bill is due. I got this thing to pay for. And you're like, what am I going to do? The easiest thing, which sometimes the easiest thing is not always the best thing, right? The easiest thing is, oh, let me pull out my credit card and pay it off. I'll figure it out later. It's like, no, take a beat. It's okay. And that's one of the things we had to work on is like, it's okay to just take a beat and breathe and realize like, all right, let me figure things out. Like the sky's not falling. I know it seems urgent at the moment. We can sleep on it and come back the next day. It's okay. But I think when you have a plan in place, and we'll jump into that next of like creating the plan, but when you have that plan into place, it helps you think through things a bit more of like, okay, well, let me go. My first thing is let me go check my spending plan. Let me see what's going on. And then we can figure out what do we need to allocate or shift or adjust, because that's the thing. When you have a plan, you know where everything's going, and you can review that plan and say, all right, I was going to put some money towards getting a massage this month and get my nails done. But you know what? I have this thing. I can just reallocate that over to this bucket. And then it's like I said, it's a nuisance, but it's not urgent where it's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? What was the other thing I wanted to touch on with this one? But as we jump into the next thing with like, how do we actually spend with intention, which we kind of been touching on it a bit more, but when you decided to do like spending with intention, how did you reframe that for yourself in being able to create the spending plan and having it through to, I know we talked about paying yourself first, but then now that you paid yourself first, how did you manage the overall spending process of it?
Yeah, so initially it was just, okay, once I see what's left, I'm like, this is how much I have left to spend, period, across all the things I have to do between those two checks, right? And so a big part of it is just, okay, how much do I normally spend on groceries, for example? And then is that sustainable with this new plan? Yes or no? You know, actually, let me actually revert back. When creating the plan initially, when I'm starting fresh with someone, I'm always like, let's look at where you're currently spending your money now, and then saying, okay, is this how you want your money spent? Right. Yeah. And if it's fine the way for you, then great. Okay. But nobody's ever fine. I would still want to come and work with me, right? They're looking for something, right? So it's like, okay, what can we do to take away some of these things? Like, for example, people have subscriptions that they don't even use, you know? And I'm like, what does that get you? Nothing. Okay. So go cut them suckers off. But we're so in the road of just the day to day that we don't stop to think about these things. Yeah. And it's like, oh, it's just $10. Or it's just $10 over the course of a year is $120. Okay. And we know there's barely a subscription that's only $10 nowadays. Okay. Because they keep running everything up. So
exactly.
Do things on purpose. You know, like right now, one of the things I'm doing too is like, I'm canceling like streaming services between seasons of stuff. Cause I'm like, why am I paying? Even if you like the annual thing seems like a deal when it comes to that. But I'm like, but if I'm not watching it for like 3-4 months, why am I paying annually? Cut that crap off. And then, so what's the name? Just resume it when the seasons come back. So these are small ways of doing it. And then when it comes to the bigger things, it's like, okay, if I want something, if I'm going to buy, like we going to buy a couch. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to start putting a little bit more towards the house fund for now while we're building towards getting this couch. But then my anchor check came, my state property tax refund. So I'm happy. Okay. I'm couch shopping now. But point is, like, I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna go buy the couch and then figure it out. I'm like, I'm going to sit on this lumpy behind couch until you know we have the funds for it. Because what you don't want is to have like all these things around you and it's for other people, but it's putting stress on you. You know, and that was a big deal for me when I first came into my money journey, because what I was doing was like going out to restaurants and I'm like covering the bill for what? Have the let people pay their own stuff. The heck?
All the happy hours I used to be going to with coworkers.
Yeah, like or what? You know, or like people go out to lunch. I'm like, people go out to lunch every day, and it's like, does that make you feel some way? Nope. Now I pack my lunch and I go to lunch with them if I feel like it. Like, you know, like you create the thing that matters to you. If eating out is important to you, then yes, fit that into your budget. But if you're eating out just for the sole purpose of like, oh, everybody else is doing it, so I need to be doing it too. What does that fulfill you? Like, what does that do for you? You know, so that's what I look into talking to my clients. It's like every dollar you spend, some of it, we have no choice, right? You got to pay for housing, but you know, be grateful for the roof over your head. You know, I want you to feel good about every dollar you spend, even if some of it is somewhat out of obligation, but it's providing a service to you, it's providing value to you or your family or whatever. Then yes, I'm paying it, but I'm happy about it. Versus like, I don't know where my money went this month. I'm like, that's
Right.
unfortunate. I don't like that feeling for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I kind of have a similar approach too of managing. And I kind of start though with, again, the vision in mind. Like I'm very vision focused when it comes to a spending plan. So usually at the top of the year, I'll say like the end of the, like December time, my husband and I will look over like, all right, well, what do we want to do for the next year? And we've been doing this for like, we've been married 20 years now. So for a long time, at least from the vision part of it. But writing out like, what do we want to do for the next year? So I actually started using that as like, all right, here's the vision that we want for the year. And then what do we need to do income wise? Like I go, because he's an entrepreneur, he has a business, I'm an entrepreneur as well. So what do we need to do income wise to achieve that goal? And that's also part of my framework, what I do with clients. Before we talk about any numbers, before we talk about anything, the first thing I want to know is like, what is your vision? What is that you want to work towards? What do you want your money to do for you? And I remember my client, Tamina, for her, she wanted to basically know how much money she actually needed to make to live the lifestyle that she was living without having to go into debt. And I'm like, that part. Like that, if you want to live this life, if you want to maintain this life, you want to have the nice you go to nice restaurants, you want to be able to get the clothes that you want. It's like you have to understand what is it going to cost you to live that life. So that's the same kind of framework that I do with me, I do with my clients. Obviously, it's tailored to them, but I start with the vision. What do we want to do? Where do we want to travel? What are the things that we want to do to the house? And then we basically create a plan, a spending plan based on that. What are we going to save and everything else between that? And I love what you said about the subscription, because that's something I do monthly for my business and personally. It's like, what did I use?
Is it still worth it?
Exactly. Is it still worth it? I got a whole bunch of stuff from like my business the other day. I was like, not using this. Get out of here. Because you're right. I think a lot of times when we're in this mindset, and we're just kind of going through the daily life, we have these subscriptions that they add up and we don't even realize it. So I have literally a subscription check every single month. All right, what are we using? What are we not using? My kids got upset at me the other day because I canceled, what did I cancel? It was the Disney, Hulu, and then Prime, right? Because I already have HBO Max through my cell phone provider. So I'm like, bet, I got that, that's check. But it's like all these other ones, and I have Netflix as well, but like all these other ones, I'm like, are y'all really watching Google and Prime? And this is the kicker of how I know nobody's watching it, because nobody says anything until like a month or two later. Did you cancel Google? Disney? Yes, I did. And this is proof that you wasn't watching it.
Yeah. There you go.
So I'm like, and if you need to get it back, like I think we were doing like a Marvel marathon. So we did get it back. So we can watch a Marvel marathon, and I'll usually pause it too. Like I'll pause it for 3 months. So I'm like, I'll unpause it, and if we're not watching, I'll pause it. So that's something I do with with that thing. But it's so important. Like something that, like I said, I do every month is just checking in on like, okay, well, what is it that we're actually spending money on, and are we using this? If we're not, then it got to go, because those things do add up. And I'd rather have that money available so that I can invest more rather than just spending on a service that I'm not even using, right? So I think that's definitely like the intentionality behind our plan is, what do we actually want our money to do for us? Or what is the lifestyle that you desire? And I want to be careful too when I say this of not having like this lofty goal, because the client that I had where we did this with her, she had a very successful business and she was a six-figure earner. So she just needed to understand for herself, it's like, this is kind of her expenses, this was her debt that she paid off, and what does she need to maintain so that she can continue to have this lifestyle and invest and save at the same time too. So it was more from that perspective. Like I don't want to say that you just think of the lofty goal and then you're like, all right, this is how much I want to make, and then no, you have to have like a concrete plan of this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm bringing in, and this is what I need to do with my spending plan to make sure that I can either maintain this life. Or is there anything that I need to do to take away so that, again, I can maintain this life? Because a lot of what I see happen to me, I don't know if it happened to you, with the lifestyle creep. You make more money and then your expenses increase. And for me, for the longest time, I was like, why am I making all this money and I still feel like I'm broke? Like I need to get into the job. And so it wasn't until, again, making that shift to, all right, well, this is what I want for my life, and this is how I'm going to use my money. And again, my goal was to be a millionaire. So I was like, all right, I'm investing. Let's put this money to work. which kind of jumps into the last topic of investing.
Yep.
Like for that particular journey, and I want to start off with, I was on a call. It was a mastermind thing that I attended, and Myron Golden was on that call, and he said this one thing, and I was just like, ooh. He said, the reason you have a job is because your money is unemployed. And I was like, ooh. But it's so true. Like, what if again, back to the point of me being stressed when I was working was because I had to work for my money.
Yeah. Yep.
And if I didn't work for my money, I wouldn't have them. But the shift is now I'm taking my money and I'm putting my money to work. And now my money is able to take care of me. I mean, y'all saw the bull run. Y'all saw the bull run this week in the market. Woo! Yep. I mean, my money is working, right? And so I love when he said that. When he said that, I was like, ooh. Now, we always say pay yourself first. But when he said it like that, I was like, ooh, you're right. You are right. The reason you have a job is because your money is unemployed.
Yep.
I was like, that was a whole word. So as we talk about that, let's jump into investing. So how do you incorporate investing, and how did you get? I'll look for you to, if you don't mind sharing where you are. I saw your post about where you are in your investment portfolio, and I was like, yes. So share with the people. How did you get there?
So I shared earlier about how I learned about maxing out my retirement. That's the bulk of my investing portfolio. It's interesting because like I said, I started investing back in college. I did use some of that money to buy a car because I was, again, not intentional about investing, right? And so when I used it to buy a car, like the money I was putting there, it kind of was like made it so that I didn't spend the money frivolously. Like it was a way to keep it away from me, hide the money from me because I was uncontrollable, that's what, so it's like, okay, so it allowed me to buy a car with that money. Then when I got my first nursing job, I was putting money on it just because you're supposed to, right? But then when I left that job, I cashed it out because I had no vision again for it. And then so when I started, it's just like, oh, you're supposed to do this thing, but whatever. It's so tiny. Like, what difference does it make?
Exactly.
Let me tell you the difference it makes. So when I don't remember when I first bought my first S&P 500 because I wasn't keeping track of it when I first started. But when I look into that account now and I see it says 100 plus, like in terms of gains, meaning that it has doubled, okay, in value. I'm like, whenever I first bought that, me not touching that is what made that happen. You will never get that kind of return in savings. You will never get that kind of return by putting money under, by spending all the dollars, mattress, by piling on debt, by putting the money under a mattress. You will never see those kind of returns that way. Yes, stock market goes up and down, but overall, if you ever look at it, for the love of God, Google yourself some VTSAX, which is total stock market, right? Yep. Just Google it. I'm not telling you to invest in that, okay? I'm not a financial advisor. Okay? But I'm saying that if you Google VTSAX and you look at the long term, how it looked, like you see where it started and where it's going, and like you want to be at the next jump, okay? And so again, for me, I started with the work retirement account, working on maxing that out. I also maxed out my Roth IRA, or now I'm heading into the traditional because now the income's getting a little bananas. And I'm like, I don't feel like dealing with that whole backdoor Roth stuff. I'm just like, I'm gonna start putting my.
I think I did backdoor Roth like one time when I was.
I did that too. It stresses me out. I'm like, no, I just like, I don't want to get something wrong and then think, and I will listen. I've had a financial advisor in the past. I didn't favor them. So I never got another one again, but now we're at a point where our incomes is like making it like, no, we need people. Okay, it's getting beyond my abilities to manage, which is a great problem to have. But I'm just saying, like, so between like putting money in my IRA, maxing that out every year, maxing out, I've been doing that since I think I maxed out my Roth IRA first in 2019, been doing it ever since. And I think 2020 was the first year that I maxed out my work retirement account and been maxing it out ever since. I just do like backward, just doing the math, like let's get it done. Let's get it done.
Yeah.
And then I also have a brokerage account. I actually started with a brokerage account. That's the account I opened up when Auntie told me to open the account. And like I've had a brokerage account ever since. And that's a great asset for people who do intend on retiring early. Or if you have another goal, like that's more long-term, like maybe you're like, I want to buy a house in 5-10 years, then that's a great place to put money so it could have great growth and you could use that. Or if you do want to retire early, you don't feel like touching the retirement assets, there's all sorts of strategies you could do. But like, if you want to make your life simple, you have a brokerage account that you could touch at any time. So when I'm done maxing out my Roth IRA, the money that I usually put towards maxing, like to put money in there, every paycheck will then go to the brokerage for the rest of the year. And then we do it again, top of the year. That money first goes to the IRA. When that gets maxed out, goes to my brokerage, and over and over and over again. So over time, like the work retirement account is going to surpass everything pretty much you do, unless you have infinite amount of funds and you're able to put in a brokerage account, because you can put so much money in there and compared to your IRA, right? This year, the limit for the work retirement plan is $24,500 compared to the $7,500 you could do in an IRA. So if you have a work retirement plan, beat it up, okay? Beat it up. You know, a lot of people,
and the tax savings that people don't think about too when you go to your work retirement account, especially for my earners.
Yes, like manage it. And also by contributing pre-tax to there, you're decreasing your taxable income. It does a lot of great benefits to it. People will be like, your work retirement plan is a scam because you can't do whatever you want in it. But that's why it builds up money. People, the reason people could tap into it when, oh, like I can't afford this thing, I'm going to take money out of there, it's because you can't touch it. If you had the ability to touch it, there would be no money in there. So go put money in there, okay? And don't look at it. Don't look at it. Oh, I just want to add to Simple Path to Wealth was an amazing book because it really made it like so easy to like tackle investing without feeling. Yes.
Really great read. This is the second book that I read too.
It's great because it takes the fear out of investing and gives you a place to start. And I think it's a great place to start. And then I've toyed and learned with other things. So now I have ETFs in real estate and REITs, right? I have ETFs in the total stock market now. But like with time, you might get interesting, but you don't need to. That's the beauty of it. Right. Simple Path to Wealth tells you exactly
Keep
the basics.
Simple.
I Will Teach You to Be Rich is also a great book by Ramit Sethi.
That's the other one I got over here.
Yep. Like those books will have you read, okay? So then the only thing then that you have to fill in, besides, okay, I have a strategy, this is working for me, is how do I maximize that? And I think that that's where like a lot of work my clients lies. It's like, how do we do this as efficiently as possible? Like put as much money here as possible while still living a life now, putting money aside for your vacations, putting money aside for, you know, your parents, your kids, you know, all the things. Like, how do we balance all those things and like make the most? So instead of money going to Hulu when you don't really care about it, or going to Amazon when you don't really care about it, you're putting it towards something you actually care about. And that's my whole goal with my clients.
Yeah, so we have something similar because I did the same. So I started with my 401k, although I have never maxed out any accounts on my journey to my first 100k.
That's okay.
Now, I will tell you, I was going to max it out the year they let your girl go, but it's all good. That was the year that I was like, I bet we about to max out this account. Came back from Paris and I was like, your position is being eliminated. I'm like, okay, whatever. But so what I started with was the 401k account first. And when I was on that journey of like paying off debt, I was always like back and forth on, because, you know, Dave Ramsey's just like, don't invest until you pay off debt. And I'm like, but I need my money to work. I think that was the problem for me, was like the cognitive dissonance in my brain was like, but investing is going to make my money grow. And you're telling me that I shouldn't put any money towards investing until I paid off my debt. Like, it just didn't sit well with me, which is why I decided to create my own system that allowed me to do both. But I started with my 401k plan. I then had the health savings account, which I love because at one point I didn't even realize that I could invest in that account. So I started investing my HSA, and you have to have a high deductible health plan in order to qualify for a health savings account. But then I had the brokerage account, and I love that you mentioned doing the brokerage account as a part of like if you want to retire early, because that came in a clutch, especially like we built up our savings and we had my brokerage account. And I think in 2023, I had already been building up because I was like, I eventually I do want to leave my job and like go full time in JamaaWealth. And so I had already started building up my brokerage account, already have my emergency savings fund. But I agree, because that was one of the things in my mind when I first heard about the FI journey of like creating financial independence. And I'm like, okay, so if I can touch this money until I retire, and I want to retire early, like what am I going to do? And then I was like, I heard about like the brokerage account. I'm like, oh, okay. So build up and build up the brokerage account. The other thing that we did was our kids. So we have UTMA accounts for all of my kids. And we, again, set up, we have 4 kids. So we were just doing $100 a month, $25 or $200 a month, $25 for each per paycheck, and just automatically put it in there. My 5-year-old is about to be a millionaire by the time, he gets, up and by my age. So I'm like literally just having their money build in there. The one thing I want to say though, about the 401k, and this is what I did, is because my income was increasing rapidly each year, what I ended up doing was I would set up automatic increases in my 401k. So every year around the time, it was every April, we got a pay increase. I would actually set my 401k contributions to increase by 1%. So if I got like a 4% raise, I was only getting 3%, and then the 1% was going into my 401k. And I love that process.
It's 3 for present you and 1 for future you.
It's still all your money. Exactly. And let me tell you, I didn't miss it. And that's how I teach all of my clients too. Yeah. So like 1%, I wasn't getting it before, but I'm getting an increase. Yes, I'm getting a 3% increase, and the other one's going in there. But it's interesting because that, again, going back to Katie, because we kind of went through a whole lot of stuff with her. But for her, it was the same process of even having to break it down. I think at one point she was like, you know what? I don't want to add any more towards my 401k. And I'm like, girl, when we did the math, it was like $25 a paycheck that I'm like, that's $50 a month that you'd be missing, but you're saving so much more. And I think a lot of times when we think about numbers, we want to have so much of our money like in our bank account. But when you think about the future version of you, that $50 to $100 is going to grow and build for you. And I think for me, what allowed me to stay on this journey was the fact that I was doing that automatically. So it was out of sight, out of mind. My money was automatically increasing every time I was getting an increase. I was still getting a nice chunk in my paycheck, but because I set it up that way. And I think a lot of people, if you can set your money plan up in a way where it's automated, especially for my neurodivergent people, I'm just gonna put that out there, where you don't have to think about it and it's just set up for you, you'll have much more of a success to be able to invest. Because just like Prisca talked about, we're basically putting our money aside so that it's working for us automatically, and we're not having to toy around with it. It's like literally automatic every time the paycheck comes. And so what hits your bank account, that's what you have to manage and spend with your overall expenses. But I think that's the key. It's like setting up your money plan in a way where you're still able to live your life and build for your future. Right? It's not about restriction. It's not about, okay, I'm going to like cut everything out. Cause I don't know about you. I've done that where I was like, oh, well, Dave Ramsey said, I'm going to cut everything out. I'm going to eat on beans and rice. It did not work. It didn't work for some people. But if you have I have 4 kids, like, and in my mind, I had to think about like, I'm going to restrict, because when I did the plan originally and mapped it out, it was going to take me 5 years to pay everything off, like completely get debt free. And so to restrict so much for 5 years with like my kids, like it didn't sit well with me. Like I said, my husband wasn't on, but he's like, we can't live like that. And so I'm so glad that I found a method that allowed me to do both, where we could still enjoy. Like I was saving, we were cash flowing vacations while we were paying off debt, and it didn't affect our debt plan, but it allowed us to still be able to enjoy life, pay off our debt, and build our investments because we had a plan and built it intentionally. And that's really what it's all about. When you build a money plan that is for your life, then you can weather no matter what's happening, no matter what happens if the stock market is up or down, or things that are going on, you can create a plan for your life that works for you. So I don't know if you want to add anything else to that of just like
Yeah, I
investing
just want to
and
say
building that
too,
plan.
because we're talking a lot about maxing out stuff, and I just want to make it clear for people. First of all, not everyone needs to max out their retirement accounts, right? You need to find out what that number is that you need. When do you want to achieve it by, right? So
Mhm.
some people are fine. They want to work till 62, 67, whatever. And so maxing it out may not be necessary for you.
Right.
Or maybe you're in a season right now where you can't, right? So a person like I don't have children. It's much more easier for me to do it versus someone who was childless, but then now you have a baby on the way. You can't expect that
Mhm.
you max it out the same way you were when you didn't have the
Exactly.
kid. You
Kids
know,
are
there's
expensive.
going to be seasons of life where that's going to be. So I just want to layer that in for people. Like we
Yeah,
are talking about maxing out, but we have our own purposes for what we're doing. Like
exactly.
me, I want to get to retirement possibility work optional as soon as possible, which is why I'm doing it. And it doesn't affect my life to do it. I'm not missing
Yeah.
that money in the least bit. I make the income to do that. So you have to
Right.
do something that fits you, right? Maybe if it doesn't matter for you so much to retire as soon as possible, you don't need to like, oh man, now
Right.
I gotta do all like, no, make it fit you, girl. I mean, I'm all about money being
Mhm.
calm and peaceful and
Exactly.
joyous.
And I love that what you said because a lot of times people don't realize, like if you haven't calculated your financial freedom number, you just basically take your with the
Mm,
annual income, multiply that by 25, and then you have like your what you would need in investments. But the key thing that I want to say about that too, which you touched on, because when I started out, now mind you, I was making six figures. I could trying to invest and max out wasn't even a thing. Like I said, I had at
yeah.
that time I had two kids. I started, and I want to say, even when I started investing, let me back up. How I even got into investing was when I had my very first corporate job in orientation. They talked about investing in your 401k and what it would look like if you invested $25 a paycheck and how you'd have $1 million by retirement. And I was like, all right, bet. Let me put $25 a paycheck in there. And mind you, I kept putting $25 a paycheck in there from when I was making $30,000 a year to when I was making like $150,000 a year. And I never changed it, right? And I
Mhm.
say all that to say is if you're thinking in your mind right now, well, I don't have enough to invest, start with something. I don't care if it's $5
That's
or
it.
$10. Start
That's it.
with something. Because I always say if it's an amount, do an amount right now just to start. You can just start with 1% of your
Hmm.
income, right? And just put 1%. And then you can, if you want to use the method that I did, every year when you get a pay increase, then you just increase it, right? Just so that you know that you're building. But the whole point is doing an amount where you can put it aside and not have to feel like, oh, I'm missing that amount, right? Build
Yep.
up the tolerance to putting that money away, right? Because I know it's so hard to kind of go through the well, I'm already like gas is expensive, groceries expensive, all these things. But okay,
Hmm.
you don't have to sacrifice it. Just put $5. You
Yep.
will be surprised at how much that $5 will grow in the stock market. Okay,
Yep.
so Um, let's see. Wow, we've been chatting it up a here. If you guys, I'm sorry, I didn't even ask questions for the folks. Thank y'all for joining. For the folks that are popping in and in the comments. But if you have any questions, feel free to drop them here now after the live, and we can certainly answer them. That's how I don't know about you. That's how we create content with the questions that you guys give us too as well. So just make
Yep.
sure you drop it in the comments. So as we wrap up, kind of any like last minute thoughts that you have as we wrap up this call right now.
Yeah. I just managing your money with intention will make a world of a difference. Okay. No matter where you're coming from, how much life costs, whatever, doing it on purpose will bring relief, will bring peace, like more than what you have today. Okay. If you weren't doing it today and then you start doing it tomorrow, you're going to feel a difference here first. Okay.
Yep.
And then you're going to see that eventually wind up in your bank account. So a simple way in which I see it very easily is when I look at my kitchen before I go shopping for groceries, right? And I'm like, okay, I look at what's on sale. I'm like, oh, there's chicken on sale. And then there's chicken in the fridge. Like, why are you buying it, right? So when I do that, the difference between my grocery bill for the month is hundreds of dollars,
Valid.
okay? Hundreds. Now, do I do this every month? No, sometimes I do let it I do spend more, right? I do have that flexibility, but just know, like, when you put thought behind your money will work better for you. 100%.
Absolutely. Absolutely, I agree. Because I can tell you, with 4 kids, we're a family of 6. Trying to stay consistent, and there's times where I've been able to like push down my grocery budget to get to a point where it's like I feel comfortable with like how much we're spending. But at one point, I'm like, okay, if this is the life that we want to live, let's just make sure that we're making the money to support being able to purchase this amount of groceries or do this kind of shopping. Because like it doesn't always have to be about restriction. But I love that what you do, because I'm a big, it's like something to me. Like I hate wasting food. Like that's just like my thing, and I gotta like explore that more. But I just see dollars going down the drain whenever somebody throws something in the trash. I'm like, God, you know how much that costs? But no, it's just with kids. It's like, my goodness, these kids, they're expensive. That's all I gotta say. But just to wrap up, so again, it's kind of everything we talked about is the mindset. That's the first place you want to start, with understanding your vision of what it is that you want your money to do for you, and then shifting your thought process around like what is it going to take for you to shift your habits and behaviors to get to that point. Then we work into moving and building that system. Prisca and I talked about first creating that pay yourself first, of how you're putting your money to pay yourself first, and then we're living off what's left. Building up that saving, and definitely investing, making sure your money has a job. Your money should not be unemployed. Put it to work. That's all right. Your money should be making more money, babies. All right. So Prisca, let the people know, where can they find you? Do you have any free resources you can offer up to them?
Yes. So I'm actually hosting a free challenge next week, the Debt Payoff Challenge. It's the second run. It was wildly successful the first time in terms of getting people results. People months later were still like messaging me with the results they got.
Love it.
It's pretty awesome. But when that's not always going to be live. It just happens at certain times. But I can share that link for you guys in the chat. And then also, like, I have the Where's My Money Going guide. So you can grab all that. Like, if you sign up for my emails, like all this stuff is, there, so you can grab, because I really want to show people that, money is in their power to manage, right? This is not something that's happening to you. Like the way you spend money, for the most part, is something that's in your control. And so like, let's find that missing dollars and put it to work where we want it to work. Absolutely. So, and also you can find a lot of free content here on YouTube. YouTube is like,
all right, so YouTube, last year. And I'll make sure I drop your handles and everything. So YouTube, Instagram, right, for them.
Yep. LinkedIn as well.
And then from LinkedIn as well. All right. And then the same thing for me. I'm more active on YouTube, LinkedIn, and then Instagram. But I have the free Wealthy Money guide, where it helps you understand what's the gap, what is it that you're missing in your money plan. So that I'll also put in the description. Short quiz where you go through a series of questions, and it lets you know what's your next step, or what should be focusing on in your journey to building that spending plan and start building wealth. Because that's the goal here, is how can we put our money to work so that we're creating that life of freedom and ease, right? So again, thank you so much. Thank you, Prisca, for joining me. We definitely got to do this again. I love this conversation. And for those that are joining and watching the replay, please comment replay in the comments so we know that you watch. And if you have any questions, let us know. And until next time, here's to your financial freedom. Peace.